Of course, in this special edition, we're focusing on the achievements of women. The last elections obviously gave us 7 elected female governors in the country, and we had quite a number of women representing single constituencies, like the one I have in studio, the Honourable Beatrice Elachi from Dagoretti North. In a bit, we will also be joined by the Honourable Wanjiku Muhia from Kipipiri constituency. But thank you very much, Mheshimiwa, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. Probably before we get into a conversation, it's important that we shape the journey of where this conversation began. Before these numbers of women could be elected as governors or members of parliament representing a single constituencies, and by the way, even senators. For example, in Nakuru, as well as in Machakos and in Isiolo, we have women senators. Let's just have a look at the journey that shaped up the 2/3 gender rule principle.
Though women were hardly recognized in leadership and governance immediately after Kenya's independence in 1963, their contribution in the struggle for independence cannot be ignored. Little-known Priscilla Abwao was the first Kenyan woman in the Legislative Assembly in 1961, pushing the women agenda in governance.
Kenyan history does not actually record her as being there for what exactly in particular. Some of them would say that maybe she was a secretary taking notes. However, in the British press, she was known as a Kenyan suffragette. Why? She was carrying the women's agenda, and she wanted the Independence Constitution to also have provisions that would allow for women to participate in the governance and administration of the country. Of course, it did not see the light of day.
Post-independence, Kenyan women continued jostling for their placement in the political space, albeit with little success, especially during President Daniel Moi's era.
I talked to people like Sophia Abdi, who participated she wanted to be a member of parliament as far back as the early 90s, but it was KANU and President Moi and the leaders of her area at that time that held her back. Wangari Maathai, when she actually, during the advent of multi-party politics, and she was vying, and it was none less than President Moi who stood on a podium to demean her, you know.
Charity Ngilu will be remembered as the first female contestant for presidency in 1997. Gender parity, largely fronted for by the Maendeleo ya Wanawake, was a key agenda in the constitutional review process that sired the 2/3 gender rule to reflect the needs of the modern-day Kenya.
As late as 2010?
Yes. You could not confer citizenship to your child. Even if you, Mensa, had a child, gave birth here in Kenya to a child, and your husband it was not a Kenyan, your child would not be Kenyan, because you as a female citizen did not have the right to confer citizenship to your child.
The implementation of the 2/3 gender principle, as stated in Articles 81B and 27(8) of the 2010 Constitution, in both elective and appointive positions, has however been beset by challenges.
The biggest challenge that we faced, and without fear of contradiction, has been political will. You find one group in our parliament is supportive, the other group is not supportive.
Legislations to implement the law have faltered on several occasions.
We have had so many bills, but what I would call a step forward is when we have had government bills. And one of those was Duale 1 bill. Although it was defeated at the floor of the House, but that was a step in the right direction. And then came Duale 2. It was defeated. I was in Parliament, but I could tell why we lost that one was because some of the strong supporters of the bill were out of the country. And quite a number of them were women. They had gone on official duty.
This stalemate led to the submission of 6 petitions to the then Chief Justice David Maraga, seeking his advice. Maraga subsequently advised President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament for failing to enact legislation on implementing the gender rule as provided for in the Constitution. This sparked the wrath of the legislators. On its part, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission pushed political parties in the 2022 general election to fulfill the two-thirds representation in their nominations. Even though the numbers were not met in the elective posts, the Senate met the deficit through nomination that brought on board 18 women.
When you read what is there in Senate, there are 16 seats reserved for women. And people keep on asking, why 16? It was 47 divided by 3. So that was to cater for 1/3. That was very well thought out. Although there are nominations, but that was well thought out. Now, when it comes to the National Assembly, the reserved seats are 47. Looking at all the constituencies in this country, that does not make a third at all.
The president is making the right moves. He has told Parliament, look, there's a dissolution order. This thing has to be resolved. Can you please do something about it? Parliament have taken up the challenge. They are making it, the Kenya Kwanza team have made it part of their agenda. We are following up on it because we engaged with the presidential memo. And so we expect to see Parliament tabling a bill, or at least the government side tabling a bill that will finally resolve the issue of the two-thirds.
In appointments, there has been progress as well, with 7 women cabinet secretaries in 2017 and the same number in 2022, but an additional 3 more assigned the cabinet-level portfolios.
That is as far as the journey goes. And from a nominated senator to running in Dagoretti North on a Jubilee Party ticket, failing to clinch that seat, becomes the Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly, is impeached. She tries to come back, I think out of reasons best known to those who are blocking her. She doesn't make it back, but then this time she bags the Dagoretti North MP position on an ODM ticket. She joins us in studio to tell us about that journey, because what we have seen much more is about the experience of women in the country. But let's deal with the personal experience of Beatrice Elachi. From a nominated senator in 2013 to now an elected member of parliament representing a single constituency in 2022. If you could just briefly walk us through what you went through.
Well, first of all, it's an interesting journey. And when I look at days, then I remember our days in civil society. So you walk a journey, a good journey. But then the most important thing, it gives you sort of a path that you will always remember where you have come from and why you should always work for women, especially. Be a bit biased, work for women. It's because of that journey that is a journey. Sometimes you will close your door and ask yourself, okay, what is all that I've just gone through? And so I think for me, what strengthened me and what has continued strengthening me is having worked with civil society and still being able to continue just going back and forth with them and following. And if there's anything, going back for more advice, it has strengthened me. It strengthened me when I was the Secretary General of APK and coming in now to become a nominated senator and then being a whip of the Senate. But then more importantly, you go through a journey where people, many people, when I meet them, they say, oh, you're very lucky. You're a person with a lot of... But they forget some of these journeys are just through God's grace, by the way. You must trust in God first in all these journeys. And then when you come through, you must build a sort of a skin and build your niche. Whether it is good or bad, build it and be firm on it, regardless of many things that will come. Because people will talk, people will say, you'll do a lot of things, but you'll always find yourself clouded with so many things. But the best thing I've learned is just focus on what you want to achieve, and you will achieve it better. Don't focus on, I always call it in kwa Kiswahili, fitina nyingi hii wacha. You focus on what you know is good for your legacy, and it is important for the people. And in that journey, you'll always meet very many selfish people who believe you have to do this for them and do this other thing. Now, you have to come out of that racket and start focusing on how do you ensure you touch many other people's lives. So for us women, you find your journey very tough, because whether you do good, whether you do what, you will be criticized, you will be told everything. But the best thing is you keep quiet, be a Kibaki. Just focus on doing what is right till the end, and people will see. But the good thing, many people see. And it's now when many people are realizing when women are in leadership, they work more harder and they are able to deliver even. In Dagoretti North, 1 year down the line, I think the few things we have done in terms of now looking at the bigger picture instead of being that selfish picture where one wants to be the one to rotate on the things they want. I mean, we've touched the schools, and for me, education is key. So whether you come with all these other side shows, I have to focus myself to ensure that education, is it qualitative? Are children able to see it better? Are we getting good results? And are we able to move those children now to better schools as they move out? So those are some of the things. So when you come to Parliament, also you will laugh with your colleagues, but you'll always know. They're even wondering, now how did this woman, how did this woman, first of all, do it? And so all I want to say is first to thank Kenyans. Kenyans who have now believed in women. We want to appreciate the 7 governors. And for me, Nakuru County, congratulations. Homa Bay County, congratulations, because they have hit the 2/3, the 1/3 that we are talking about. I mean, Nakuru has gone 100%. So, and I'm hoping the women in Nakuru are going to do a job that the Nakuru people will never forget. And so it does not matter what happens there. What matters, and that is one thing I think we've learned through every woman who has been in leadership. And for me in Nairobi, so my role model is Mama Beth Mugo. So what did she do in Dagoretti that I should do better is what I'm trying my best. So she did schools, she did roads, she ensured. And we have to do those things, but we must remember also the politics and dynamics have really changed. And we have young people, so how do you engage with young people and make sure that they are also moving on in the right direction. So for me, when I see education and I see the president pulling education and strengthening and saying he wants change, that is one pillar I support. I support fully to see how do we change this education system to go back to the days we benefited in education. And that is why we are here today. How do we do it for our children?
Absolutely. Before we bring in Mheshimiwa Wanjiku Muhia, because she's already with us, a quick one, and I forgot to actually mention that in between you being MP and Speaker of Nairobi County Assembly, you became a Chief Administrative Secretary, a CSC in the Ministry of Gender and Public Service. But a very quick one, the drama we saw at City Hall on the material day that you were returning to the assembly, and the kind of violence you saw there, was it your lowest moment in your political life?
Oh, definitely, it will be your lowest, but it will be also your time when people will get to know you better. Yes, because you know, with women, we take time. So people will joke with you, people will call you names, people will troll on you, but the day you come out, then you come out once and for all, and you say enough is enough. So that patience has helped me to have that patience. And I'll have a lot of patience in many things that we are doing, many things that happen. I'll have patience. But the day I come and say stop, I think my stop is a good stop. Yes, and I never joke with it. I always say, sasa hapa, tumeingia red line vizuri. Sasa tuwache tuangaliane sasa vizuri. So that we know each other properly and we will respect each other. And that is the best way to do. And I've come to learn in politics, you have no choice but to have a red line at one moment. Because that is a time when people say, oh yeah, she's a leader. Apparently in Kenya, sometimes people love very abrasive leaders, which is something women, we can't do so much. But I've come to realize that is how it works. And you must have a moment of it. So, but give people time, be a mother. Yeah, give people time, they just do their things. But the day you say, sasa hapa, we have to respect each other, and it's not in a bad way. It's that this is just an institution. It's an office. You know, that respect has its own value also.
Because you mentioned about Nakuru,
Yes.
Nakuru County. Let's just focus a bit on Nakuru County. We have that story up about how Nakuru has fared in terms of enforcing the 2/3 gender rule, because you have a governor, senator, and women rep, the 3 top positions in the county occupied by women. Let's have that story up, and of course, as Mheshimiwa Wanjiku Muhia joins us on set.
The promulgation of the 2010 Constitution of Kenya heralds a new era in women empowerment and attainment of gender parity in the country's policy-making institutions. It sought to address the historical marginalization of women in these institutions by barring the holding of both elective and appointive government seats beyond 2/3 of the same gender. The subsequent general elections saw women breaking barriers to elective politics, clinching 16 seats in the National Assembly and 82 in the county assemblies in 2013. 2017 saw women elected for the first time as governors and senators, with 3 in each of those positions. They also increased their number at the National Assembly and county assemblies to 47 and 96 respectively. This success raised the number of gazetted women candidates from 1,016 in 2017 to 1,768 in 2022. Of these women, a record 7 were elected governors, 3 in the Senate, 29 members of parliament, and 115 in the county assemblies. The hallmark of this feat was Nakuru County, where they elected women as governor, senator, and member of National Assembly in 4 of the county's 11 constituencies. These were Susan Kihika as governor, Tabitha Karanja as senator, Liza Chalule as woman rep, Charity Kathambi as Njoro Member of Parliament, Martha Wangari as Gilgil Member of Parliament, Irene Njoki as Bahati Member of Parliament, and Jane Kehara as Naivasha Member of Parliament. Of the 62 elected MCAs, 14 are women. However, they too had to grapple with challenges such as societal norms, gendered violence, and lack of funds that had for a long time impeded women's entry into political leadership.
In fact, we have a culture still in some areas where people are even being influenced. Still, the position of women is in farms and in the kitchen and in what have you.
Some meetings for men wanafanya usiku. As a woman utaenda usiku mikutano. Mambo mingi napitishiwa huko. Wanaongelea huko inaisha.
Sometimes you could go and call your people, you are doing campaigns, someone brings goons, you are all chased away, you run away, you want to save your life.
The marital status is also used to undermine their candidacy.
For me, for example, I'm married in Kirinyaga. They bring marriage issues that you are supposed to be to go to Kirinyaga. That is where you are supposed to go and seek for an elective position. And I was like, hello, I'm born here. Whether you like it or not, my mother is here. So I must develop where I was born.
That is the time I came to learn, am I a different person? Because when I started the campaign through URP 2012, 2013, it was like, who is this Charity? Why don't you go back? Where are you married? Who has married you? How many children do you have? Why don't you go back to Meru and just look for a position? And actually I was so much demotivated about politics because politics became like, it is now undressing me now.
For Irene Njoki, being the lone woman against 4 men in the race for Bahati parliamentary seat caused her family a lot of concern.
My mom was very scared. The first time when I told her, by the way, you know I'm running for politics, she told me, no, don't make us get killed here. No, we don't want any fights here.
Mimi nilikuwa na huzuni sana. Sababu hiyo kazi nilikuwa naona ni kubwa na tena yule anaenda kushindana naye ni Simba hawezi mshinda.
Her choice of a Jubilee ticket in a United Democratic Alliance UDA zone politically ostracized her from her family.
She just came and said, no, you know what? mimi nasimama na Jubilee. And then I was like, okay, first, you've surprised me that unasimama. Again, now you're telling me Jubilee. And then we were like, what is she thinking? And then the incumbent, the one who was there, who was really, really strong and doing UDA. So we of course tried to talk. Hey, why don't you change your mind? Why can't you go either way? You know? So we were all against her Jubilee thing, you know.
My brothers, my sisters, you could tell when we are trying to plan meetings, you finish kidogo, then they go, upon you may attend, they start saying, will she make it? And UDA was just Ruto in Bahati, nobody else. Yeah, it was just Ruto. So my mom told me, if you're not voting for Ruto, even me, I will not vote for you.
But Irene's resilience and pragmatism eventually secured their support for her bid.
Every time we came up with utafanya nini hapa, I have a solution for that. Look, if you do this and this and this, si tutaweza. Actually, now we started even supporting her kabisa.
Mimi nimpigia guy, ni mimi. Ni wachwe.
Charity too turned the odds in her intermarriage to her advantage, diffusing the hostility between different communities living in Rift Valley through tree planting.
If today we raise 3 seedlings in the Kalenjin community, we shall pick them and go and plant in some schools in Kikuyus. And the picking Kikuyus, we go to colleges and some Kisis. Therefore, this was just my passion to unite people.
Besides their individual efforts, they united as elected and aspiring women leaders after the 2017 elections and crafted a strategy for increasing the number of elected women leaders.
What we are going to do as leaders, can we work harder than men? Therefore, it was from the day we were elected with Jane and with Gilgil MP, we were telling one another privately, if we are going to be different ladies, having gone through a lot of challenges, agreed as colleagues who were elected, can we perform ladies? So that 2022, can we also increase the margin of women? And actually the result you have seen in 2022, Nakuru County was shocked. Because people were saying, hey, just go to see what Kadhambi has done in Njoro. Just go to Gilgil, go to Naivasha.
The locals affirmed that strategy endeared women leadership to them.
Tuliona uongozi wa mama hasa sana kama huyu MP Martha Wangari. Yeye alikuja akachanganya kabila zote kwa ofisi yake. Kwa nini anachanganya kabila? Na tunataka mtu kama huyo.
Mimi ni mtu wa bodaboda. Na kuna vile mtu wa bodaboda anaonanga ni kama kufikia kiongozi wa level ya MP ni kama ni ngumu. Lakini wakati Martha aliingia, utaambiwa mama anakuja siku fulani bila kudanganywa. Unakuja na unampata na anakushughulikia shida yako.
Civil society organizations that are keen on equal and active participation of women at all levels, as the UN Women played a major role in empowering them.
We got a lot of trainings which started giving me some courage. Like I appreciate United Nations, the women department, where they were taking youths to motivate them for different positions. And I realized, for how long do I cow? For how long am I going to be tormented? I just made a decision. If this is the destiny God has for me to continue pushing so that at least I can vie and look for where I can serve more people in bigger platform, then I chose it.
With the 2022 election long gone, they have set their sights on 2027, and in earnest, they are building blocks on that strategy. Whereas the region they represent have peculiar challenges, education featured as a key pillar in their campaign strategies, and which they have prioritized in fulfillment of their pre-election pledges.
We are very happy to have our mothers leading us, taking leadership positions, and see their contribution, especially to the common mwananchi.
Sisi tulitoka kwa kuni, tukasema hiyo macho imezimika sana na kuumwa na kichwa, tukakuja kwa makaa, tukaona makaa si mzuri, tukawachana nayo. Sasa tukakuja hapa kwa Modern Career Energy KBC. Hizi katusaidia sana. Sasa ile mama ametutumia mwalimu, ametufundisha table banking.
They have also focused on youth and women empowerment. They are transforming lives in different ways. The Gilgil MCA employed her former student as her personal assistant.
We began the journey from class 6. She was teaching me social studies up to class 8. Later on, I joined Kenya National Service. And when I was in the service, she was nominated MCA. So I just asked for a job. And back last year, that was 2022, on February, she called me on board.
Lessons learned from years of political marginalization have made the women politicians more resilient to the challenges ahead and determined to succeed.
I'll tell you, this job is not easy. Because as much as you try, there's still that person who thinks you have not done anything.
What I tell women who are interested to join politics, let women be associated with something. Because myself, even before people were pushing me for politics, they knew Kadhambi for peace, Kadhambi for education, Kadhambi for conservation.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial star 570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial star 570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above.
Cheza Loto Moto. Watu wa Maimahi umupo. Stesheni uipendayo ya Shoro FM imekuandalia tamasha kali ya Mugithi Night Jumamosi tarehe 5 Agosti mwaka huu hapo VIP Nest Lounge Maimahi. Karabi na bendi yake wataporomosha burudani kabambe kuanzia saa 2 za usiku hadi che. Ma-MC wetu wa nguvu Mwana Mwende, Joseph Njenga na makoha wa Vioja Mahakamani wamewatayarishia vichekesho kemkema na zawadi kocho kocho za kushindaniwa. Mafansu wa Naivasha na Maimahiu mnaombwa kujitokeza, tujumuike pamoja kupiga sherehe. Hii itakuwa kali sana.
It was named Nakuru Girls, the story you just saw, and clearly they're doing very well. In studio, we're also joined by Mheshimiwa Wanjiku Muhia, the Member of Parliament for Kipipiri. Thank you very much for joining us, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, and good evening our viewers, good evening Kipipirians, Nyandaroans, Kenyan and East African at large. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited by the story of Nakuru Girls. Personally, I schooled at Nakuru High School. By then it was mixed, but now it has Nakuru Girls. So I think the spirit of Nakuru Girls has really been there since time immemorial. But as a woman leader, I'm excited that the country is moving to the occasion of embracing women leadership. And a woman, is a mother, and a mother cannot be compared by any other human being possibly, because all the way from the Bible, the mother of Jesus, and the women who have been there in the leadership in different continents, we have seen what they have been able to do. Particularly in Kenya, just to mention, at least we have seen the numbers grow. I assume they do not grow just for the sake. We can look at the numbers of women, even the very previous one of our time, leave alone the Phoebe Asio and the rest. Women like Alice Wahome, women like Cecil Barire, even women like Waiguru, the governor for Kirinyaga. You find, if you correlate the elections in Kenya, ideally 90% of MPs do not come back. But, 70%, it is studied so. But from 70, a very huge number of women do come back. So why do women come back in the election? Obviously, they are performers.
Absolutely. Let's talk about, because both of you represent very famous constituencies, Dagoretti North, Kipipiri. First of all, in the last elections, you were facing a titanic battle. You were dealing with a majority leader in the National Assembly in the name of Amos Kimunya. Actually, a former minister, a powerful minister in the Kibaki administration, shaped the race for us, dealing with a person like that, obviously with a lot of privilege. And here you are, Wanjiku Muhia from the East African Legislative Assembly now wants to be Kipipiri Member of Parliament.
I think it is just a perception that one person could be very mighty, and if you go to the story of the Bible of David and Goliath, anyone can defeat anyone. And I want to say it wasn't only him as the majority leader, as a serious contender. We were 13 of us, actually 12 men, and I was the only woman. So obviously men kept me at pace, and every idea that I brought on the table, if I went to meet women, the next location men went to meet women. If I went to meet the youth, the next location men went to meet the youth. And it was a mixed grill of politics of my time. I think very different from 2013, very different from 2017. Again, now I just came from a diplomatic background where the speaking and the manners and everything was to be so diplomatic. But you move with the time, so you find it is deep, you also go deep. So we faced each other, mainly with the genders. At least, thank God, because I had served before as a women rep for Nyandarua, and for that reason I had tangible things to do. And now this tells the women who are in leadership and even men, it's very important to do something tangible to your constituency. Because if you could move in Kipipiri, or rather in Nyandarua, you could always see tents for women. And they looked like simple things when I was doing them, but a tent cost up to 100,000 in Kenya. So the women who are in the village, they collect thousands, 500 for months before they acquire a tent. If you went to the women groups, they had sheep, they had chicken. Even I know one woman in a place called Geshigerera, a very dry place, who keep on telling me, to date, I always see my house and I remember you, because I bought her some goats and she sold and she did a house. So at least I had done some tangible issues, activities that the constituents or the voters could connect me with. But again, the Wanjiku of today, in fact, in Kipipiri, we said Wanjiku for Wanjiku. I was riding on that. Wanjiku of today is not the Wanjiku of 2017, is not Wanjiku of 2013, and Wanjiku is getting sharper and sharper. Any agenda you give in your manifesto, they're able to evaluate and see if it is workable or not. For instance, one person was saying, we'll do an airport here. And I was literally asking them, where will you be going by air? Because even by the time you board and another one is in our Turaga, the Turaga person will arrive in Nairobi before the one who is boarding an aircraft. So you see, Wanjiku can now be able to see, you are speaking of water, they connect with that. Speaking of roads, they need good roads. Speaking of education, for instance, it is first time in Kipipiri, history has been made that we have been able to move our school fees in all the schools in Kipipiri from the 15,000, 17,000 up to 20,000 per student per year in day school to 10,000. What does this translate to? A parent is paying 2,000 shillings only per student in a day school. And the people asking me, where have you gotten more money? Have CDF been increased? And I'm like, no. That is how a woman can cook chapati for Christmas in a 5-bob kasuku and everyone will feed. So we are encouraging more women to join the club.
All right. Mheshimiwa Beatrice, you come from, I would, for the lack of a better word, a volatile constituency in Nairobi County. I mean, the person you were running against in 2017 and the kind of politics done there, I actually I was actually feeling sorry for you in 2022, and look at how you performed and actually won that position. But I would imagine with the dynamics of that constituency, obviously there are challenges that came with it before you got elected, Mheshimiwa.
Yes, but first of all, in all the politics that we have, political parties are very key in that. But I also want to thank the people of Dagoretti North, because you see, people just look at numbers, but they don't relate. You see, you ask yourself, even in 2017, by the time 36,000 people are agreeing with you, and you're in a party which is, I don't know what, you should thank God. And so when you start with that, all of them are believing we tried, let's try again. And that's how politics play, by the way. So when you are a good politician and a good strategist, that's how you play your politics. And so I want to first say that it's true. And there's a lot of things that people say, a lot. But even after you have been elected, the first people who will always find it will not understand, because they would wish you remain that way, which it cannot work in politics. In politics, when you're elected, now you bring in everyone, and they must work together, regardless whether they voted this side, whether they were with you or not with you. But you know, you're supposed to, we'll never understand that. But they forget you have to do that so that you don't divide so much and you don't now find yourself again in a very tougher situation. So in Dagoretti North, our politics are good. I'm telling you. Wala la 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 la. And let me tell you, everyone will tell you this, another one will tell you this, the other one will just decide. A lot of propaganda, and a lot of every day talking about someone. And I always tell my people in Dagoretti North, please, when you come to me, speak of yourself. Please, please, please. And they know now. And if you continue speaking about, oh, so and so has said so, but I will just ignore you. And you will talk to yourself until one day you'll wonder, what are we saying? Because we'll never answer you. You continue. And I think it's the best policy. If you find people who are just continuing talking about, instead of thinking even future, instead of realizing we have schools, these schools are our schools. This is where our children go. How can we make it better so that it reduces the burden, as the way KPP is saying? I would wish Dagoretti mixed. My parents, at one point, to reach and say, we are able now to pay that 10,000. And the rest is paid by Gava, and you can now subsidize, and everyday children can have their lunch. We are trying so much. Yes, we have a few donors who have come in to support us. But you see, when you see what governor is doing, and you want to bring in, so that at least you can feed even 20,000 children, that is my wish, and I will have to do it. When you see a woman coming and telling you, Mama Dago, for 50 years, we have not seen a Mudhiora road from Naivasha road to just Muslim. And it's only 1 kilometer. But the transformation that it brings. And we are praying that we would wish CS, and I know he's going to support us, CS Murkomen, to now move it from Gatina Primary to bring it now to the end. You see, when you open that road, even people who are going, you feel a matatu will enter. When it is raining, you are able, everything transforms. It transforms for better. But you see, not many. When I look at Lavington Girls, which is the only now girls' secondary school that can take all these girls within Kawangware. Again, we have to go back. A school was, for the last 10, 15 years, it has never moved. But one thing I want to tell national government, the way they are building their classrooms, really, we must have a conversation. They build a classroom, I am telling you, with no stairs. And they left it. It has no stairs to go to the classroom. It has nothing. You are thinking, do I bring it down? And you have spent public resources. So even when you hear the president coming in very tough, it's because he knows there are some things you call mediocre is now what you can see. A classroom you look at and you wonder, so how are we going to... And when you look at what CDF is doing, you're wondering, so what's the difference? Why can't we come together and agree that this is our standard? In Nairobi, you imagine one classroom is taking more than 100 children. So why can't we agree with Public Works that one classroom should be built to take at least 70 kids comfortably? Because right now, that classroom of yours of 40 kids is not working. A child has to move the desk for them to open the door. It's very unfriendly. So, and those are some of the things as women, you see, we look through and we are saying, really, can we change?
All right. It's a very interesting angle.
And can public works change? Give us something better for Nairobi. When you know children are more, you think of it better for them to have a conducive environment for schooling.
Mheshimiwa Wanjiku, the Honorable Elachi raised a very important point on the role of political parties in promoting women leadership. I don't know how your party propelled you or, helped you in terms of advancing your fortunes in Kipipiri, but speak to that, the importance of a political party in advancing the women agenda.
Thank you very much. I think we are speaking to all women, even those who aspire to be in politics. And I want to say that political parties are a vehicle which is very important. And if you miscalculate at that point, I think you start losing it from the word go. Time and again, you may find someone like Irene Joki, who was in Jubilee in Bahati, a popular UDA zone, and she still made it. But believe me not, she must have struggled to climb the mountain of that UDA. So the political parties is very key. You must zone. If you are in ODM zone, you must go with the ODM. If you are in the UDA zone, and thank God I'm in UDA colors, I'm reminding viewers that you have still UDA. So you have to go with UDA. If you are in the other party, if it is Wiper, you have to go with the Wiper party. Reason, there is always a moment in politics, particularly the very last minute, which comes like a euphoria, which is assumed that it will not be there next time. But it has proved that it will always be there. So for one to be strategic, to calculate well, you have to be with the party. For me, for my party, I would say it really worked extra mile, because you could see the current president, who was the deputy president there, move around in Mount Kenya and the whole country at large with his brigade. They come to Kipipiri, and Kimani Ichung'wah was third on top of the caravan, and he said we must uproot Kemunya, meaning we must remove Kemunya. So then the people get the song, and in Kikuyu obviously it sounds very well, particularly that particular time for the campaign. And also the Rigathi Gachagua come, the deputy president, when they come in big numbers as a political party, they show that might. And even the Mwananchi is able to see that I also don't want to go the side which is losing. So like that time I had an advantage, because Uhuru was not coming to the constituencies in Mount Kenya. So I was so sure that Uhuru would not come to campaign for Kemunya. Otherwise, if he would have come, then maybe it would have shaken me a little bit. But now I was able to say, you see, my incoming president is even coming to tell you to vote for me. The outgoing president is not even coming to tell you to retain the majority leader. So the political parties really play a key role. However, we have seen independent candidates. This calls to order the political parties in terms of management, because at times they also do manage politics of the party very badly. You can find the party leader, for instance, in a ODM zone. I know many times he normally secure for women, and he said this one is for women. Even in our party this time, the president now had also secured some seats for people. For instance, he had said in Kipipiri, you will not do nomination. In some areas, you will not do nomination. But sometimes, because the party leader is also busy looking for votes, you find the political parties manipulating and trying to create some nomination in your constituency, bringing confusion. But that caused them now to order to manage in a modern way, that if this is the way, we should go that way, because we have seen quite a number of independent candidates. However, even independent candidate will definitely spend more money than the person who will be in a very popular party in a certain region.
You know, but two things have been raised here.
See, just to do, I like one thing, that Baba has taught politicians how to make sure you survive your political parties. And he's the one who started that, that if you don't retain also, not just the women, good politicians who come back, especially when you're on transition, And that is what even is helping now Kenya Kwanza in the House. You can imagine if now they went to a real battle and then they were just told, okay, we'll just clean. Tell me how they would survive in that House. But that is one thing the former Prime Minister, our party leader, has taught many political parties. And for us women in ODM, by the way, if there is one darling we have, is Baba. He will do everything. But in terms of respecting women, and especially if you're a woman who understands what you want to do, and you're sharp. Yeah, one thing, but people just look, but he knows you're sharp, you can deliver, and you will work. That is how he retained Wanga to make her the first woman governor in the whole Western region. And Wanga has proved, even now, she has to work double hard to prove to all the men who have been there for the last 10 years that indeed in 5 years you can deliver a country.
Which leads me to the question, Mheshimiwa Beatrice, because Mheshimiwa Wanjiku Muhia talks about the goodwill the president gave her when she was running in Kipipiri, the goodwill you got from Baba, Raila Odinga, in Dagoretti to run as Member of Parliament for Dagoretti North. Question is, why then have we not been able to completely enforce the 2/3 gender principle, and make it, a law that can be relied upon whenever going to elections? Because there have been several failed bids in Parliament.
How I wish. By the way, this is just political parties. If today, for example, the president would have said, I want to see 30 women of UDA on single constituencies in my regions that I'm strong, they would have won. The same with ODM. The same with Wiper. We would have gotten the 2/3 without going into all these stories. We would have achieved. And so I am hoping, now that we have goodwill from the president, that we are going to finalize this agenda completely and now see how do women now come in, compete. What I started saying we must prove that as much as we are getting our 2/3, that even the few seats we have, when you go to Kipipiri, you hear something good. You come to Dagoretti, something good. You go where, and we are doing it not with money of government or what. You go around and look for other people to come and support you. And we are still pleading, even here. We need more support to prove. Because if we transform those constituencies, then you awaken the other constituency to know that if there is a woman there and a woman there and a woman there, the whole county will transform. And that is our prayer. And that is my prayer. Right. And so, as much as we are saying now political parties, we are hoping in this agenda of talks, whatever, whether talks or no talks, we are hoping our 2/3 will be an agenda.
The Kenya Kwanza side has said that's the agenda. I don't know about your side.
No, it should be our agenda. For me as a woman, it is my agenda. Yes. I think we have talked about it. The women who started the agenda, now they would wish to see this dream before. They would wish to see this dream. Right. So for me, it is a dream that has to come to pass.
All right.
Yes.
Let me mention that the president really has goodwill, and he has always had goodwill. And now that he has the sterling, I think we shall realize this within his time. Why do I say this? When in the 11th Parliament, when we joined as the first women reps, you remember the women rep had no kitty.
Yeah.
And we struggled in this country. You can imagine my county expected me to do something for them, a women group or any other. And I had really no shilling. We were moving with our own money, while the counterparts from the single constituency had the NGCDF. And I can tell you without fear of contradiction that because I am one of those who established the GAF fund, the most goodwill came from the deputy president then, Honorable William Ruto. He really supported this journey. He walked with us until we realized. I can tell you the first year we missed And the second year we missed, and by the third year he stood with us. The Gaffard was even taken to the court. He still stood with us, and I think he has had very goodwill. Even looking at the almost 30 positions in Parliament now, many of those women will speak exactly like I'm doing. If you ask Kadhambi, she will say the president supported. These Nakuru girls, the president supported. So I think now the current leadership has goodwill, and we will move far, and we shall attain it.
Right.
Just to say something what my colleague says, in fact, luckily we are good friends. She supported me to go to Yala. Even now she supports me to launch the NGCDF in Kipipiri and the Cancer Center. And may I report that we are in good progress. I think we are almost finishing by the end of this year. And a month or 2 months ago, I think we went to Canada, to McGill University, on an exchange program or a session that we were learning governance and such matters. And we were several countries. It came out so conspicuously that political parties that are smart, they retain their membership in Parliament so that they can remain very strong. That's why you find ODM with James Orengo until now he has exited Parliament to go for governorship, but you'll find his voice, and maybe a newcomer definitely will not take the day, because even the tradition and practices of Parliament, it is a tradition in Parliament that if you are a senior member, senior in terms of how many times you have served,
your ranking.
you're the ranking member, so to speak, you are always even given a chance to speak, because time and again the speaker fight away from the senior members how to guide the debate of the House. So it was very clear from several countries from this world, not only in Africa, that the smart political parties also retain their membership.
All right. There's something I want both of you to think about. I want us to just, listen to the word on the street, just a 1-minute clip on what people are saying about women leadership. But as we do that, think about it. Mheshimiwa Beatrice Elachi, Mheshimiwa Wanjiku Muhia fought so hard, and of course beat bigwigs and emerged as leaders. Must we enforce the law that brings in women representation, or we just allow the natural course of people seeing women in leadership and then they decide this is what we want? Think about that. Let's hear about the word on the street.
Ujue mwanamke ni mtu wa kusimama na msimamo mmoja. Anatuinua kutoka mwenye hana na mwenye hana na mwenye hana.
Tumeona venye tumeongozwa na gavana yetu Igolo, ametusaidia sasa hasa sisi wakina mama kwa miradi yenye ameleta kwa kaunti yetu, na hata tukiangalia kaunti zingine wamama wako juu.
Ukiangalia kama kuna hospitali pale, ukienda kwa hiyo hospitali uangalie, unaona hiyo Madam Waiguru amepana ile kazi inapaa na inatakikana katika Kirinyaga.
Tofauti na wale wengine, mama amekuwa akifika mashinani sana, na amekuwa na programs ambazo zimekuwa na changamoto sana. Programs labda zile za kutouch wamama pale mashinani na wale wako under privilege ambao tujaona kwa hao wengine ambao ni wanaume.
Anaguza kila upande anaguza na inakuwa sawa sawa. So wamama wanajitahidi, na hata gavana wa Meru anajitahidi, anafanya kazi nzuri.
Wale tuko nao MCA gavana MCA Meru County ni ambao wanafanya kazi mzuri, na sijawahi kusikia complain yoyote, au hatujawahi kusikia complain yoyote ati hao wamama ambao ni MCA wa Meru County wako na kasifa au wanapigana na mama. Wanafanya kazi mzuri na tunasema wasikilia hapo.
There's actually a lot of confidence amongst members of the public in the leadership of women, which exactly fits into the question that I was asking. Must we make a law to enforce the 2/3 gender principle? Why don't we just allow the natural course to take its way? People will elect Beatrice Elachi because they believe in her leadership.
Well, first of all, I want to thank our role model, Anne. And Anne has pulled in Cecily, has pulled in Wanga. All of them were looking at Anne and Charity at that time. And you see, today, I'm happy even for Kawira Mwangaza, my friend. Yes. I mean, when you hear men now talking, and it's in Meru, you thank God. And I'm hoping we are just going to pray, continue praying, that she will do a fantastic job. You see, I always say about being elected next is another thing. First, do your legacy. Do your legacy. Don't start thinking about an election. You've just, men are the ones who finish, they start thinking, 2027. No. First, as women, I think we pause and you start looking at your name, your legacy. Those two. So in terms of do we have to? Yes, we have to, because it's in the Constitution. But the good thing, even when you are bringing it, now when you are appreciating the principle completely, you'll have seen there's growth. There's growth in where we started, and there's growth now where we are. And you're able now to listen. And especially now when you hear people talking about the women governors, they are the ones who now make us become who we are. Because now you start working hard. You remember Anne, when she started, the challenges she went through. She was actually impeached. Yeah. But you know, at that time you're being impeached, just know you're doing something that many people won't like. And that is where you'll find yourself in that situation. So it's not her alone, it's Kawena Mwangaza, it was Charity, all of us. And even us, I know. Our impeachments are also, I normally call them keyboard warriors. That is where our impeachment is. They will say anything. And so everyone will start calling you, are you seeing? It's on social media. We are 500 on the page or 200 on the page. You were elected by 57,000 people. Don't forget, you have a number of 100,000 plus registered voters. Never forget that. So you can never please everyone, and you will never get all those votes. But you must make sure what you told, that small booklet you talked about, someone can pick two things and say, ndio hafanyi vizuri, lakini angalau moja amefanya. Because men will never be judged that way. Men, whether you see, for me, if you put me on a scale now of a man, we are darkened day and night. But you see, people will prefer maybe what the man was doing. Those who prefer. But you see, they forget, you're a woman. Remember the day you leave that place, always leave generations to speak. The way we speak about Beth Mugo, the way we speak about what Charity did, the way we speak about all the women, what they have done. That is what should be my agenda. Not about how men will praise you. They will not. And don't await it.
Do we need that legislation?
Thank you, and I am really happy to see that you collect views from different counties, and these are people who are commenting from border to Mama Boga to the shops, even to the professionals. So this is real, and I hope in future we'll be collecting views from Kipipiri. You see how I am doing also in matters of electricity and others. As I use this opportunity to condemn the vandalism that is happening, because we are struggling day and night to connect our people. In fact, every day I say lighting up Kipipiri. Then some thieves follow me, switching off Kipipiri. Last week they stole 2 transformers. Imagine, they leave 400 people in darkness. That you wonder, it's really sad that we not go beyond that, because the government is already fighting them in their court already. Now, to your point, yes, it is very good to make the law, because once something is on the law, is already somehow entitled, and it can progress. First, as the many leaders we are seeing today, particularly the senators like herself and the former women reps like myself, came from a law, from the Constitution. I always say this 47 women seat is a very good platform for women to start their political career. If the first time I went to compete with the Kemunya and his PA then who are competing very vigorously, chances are I couldn't even have gotten 1,000 votes, because I was fresh from the corporate world, I was from a bank, I could have been shy, not able to articulate issues, no political background and all that. But the women rep, because I was competing against women, which is in the law, that is the point. The women rep is already on the law. It provided me the platform that now, the next time, Kemunya would say that this one should go and contest in Kinagop, and I could say, you're also married in Muranga. So at least now I had confidence to face each other, right? So it is very good to put it in the law. That has not waited for naturally to come, because if you leave it for naturally to come, it may take ages, and the world is moving very fast. Why are we denying Kenyans to enjoy the leadership of women like they are admiring from other counties or other constituencies if we can have it by law? Remember, some women are also willing to come, but circumstances are limiting them. We have financial challenges, the cultural ideologies, even sometimes religious. We have quite a number of issues that limit women. So let it just be in the law, because there is political goodwill, particularly now, and so that we also move in the right direction.
Mheshimiwa Wanjiku, Mheshimiwa Beatrice talks about, misogyny. That conversation, you're told, go vie where you're married and things like that.
Yes.
Have we been able to deal with misogyny over the years? What limits women in politics?
Now, for me, you see, my dad is a lawyer.
Yeah.
Me, I schooled in Western to make it even worse. And he lives in Lugari, but you'll still find, even today, even at that time, somebody will say, but yes, my mother is a Kikuyu, and I cannot refuse that. And therefore, being a Kenyan, I must speak both languages. So some will use it and say, this is a Kikuyu woman. Even now, they say, the Kikuyus are full in the office. They will not say, and by the way, you'll find our lawyers are the ones who are more, then followed by Luos. The Kikuyus are even the minority. But right now, I'm being told, the Kikuyus are the most in the office. But you see, for me, it's not about who is who. And how I wish our politics can be. Have you blended Kenya? Is Kenya there? Do you have all the tribes in your office? If yes, then you're okay. Which we try our best everywhere to do that. But then people forget, you have walked a journey with university students from the time they were in college. They are still, people think you just dump them and start. No. And by the way, people forget politics. The first thing you must learn from Baba and the president is that loyalism starts first. Loyalty, yes. Not just that because you have come and... It's a currency, and whether you like it or not, and not just, it's very serious loyalty. So people joke, and you look at them and you wonder, really? We learn from our masters. You learn from the best. And because both of them had learned from each other. And people always ask, okay, so how is the president? The president decided to learn from the best. So he was with Baba, he understands. He was with Moi, he understands. He puts it together and bring his blend. What will you say? He's their student. Yeah. So you have to really respect him. That he learned and he has shown them it works. And it works better. And you have to learn now from him going forward if you want to survive in politics. Yes, you have to learn from the president going forward if you want to survive in those politics. Yes.
Balancing between, because like you said, a man can get away with anything, clearly, particularly in politics. But the question here, Mheshimiwa Wanjiku, the striking a balance between your life as a mother, you have other special interests, like what you do with Deaf Olympics and stuff like that. How do you balance between representation, legislation, and your roles back at home?
I think that's why now the question is why women lead us. Because women plan their time very well. We plan time for the house, and we plan time for politics. And also, women multitask. That's why I can breastfeed as I'm putting the firewood and I am listening to someone who is saying hodi.
Yes.
But a man, and this is biological or scientific, even when we are here with you, you may notice you can't concentrate so much. Possibly I'm seeing what your cameraman is doing now, and I am in this debate. So that is why women, and that is the answer why women. You can multitask. Yes.
Why
and that's a talent, mark you. That's a talent. It's God-given. So don't joke with a God-given item or a natural gift, because that's a talent. It's God-given. And just to point a country like Rwanda, of course, having the background of East Africa, I wouldn't want to miss to comment something with East Africa. You know, after the genocide, the country struggled, and when Kagame came to power, few women were elected in parliament, and they did so well that the citizens observed, and they didn't believe that their country was picking pieces so fast. And the next election, the women were elected in numbers, and the president also did put quite a number of them in the cabinet, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Health, and this ministry did so well with zero corruption. And today, Rwanda is actually in the map. Even when you were in McGill in Canada, it was also featuring time and again in every presentation that now, in fact, the two-third gender rule you are speaking of here may be a topic in Rwanda in the near future, because now women are more in parliament than men. Why? Because it has already demonstrated itself. So this is one country which has indicated zero free corrupt zone in the whole country. Articulation of issues, the country is attracting technology in the whole world. You are seeing their airport, their flight. Economically, even if their population is so small, even their GDP may be very strong in the near future. So in essence, the women leadership, and I'm happy because even our president has put women in almost every key position, like water, even the security which are not within the country, like the national security for the UN and such. I am happy that even women are also in the key positions in Kenya. We are still moving that direction, but we have clear demonstration that women have come of age.
All right. I have about 10 minutes before we wind up, Mheshimiwa, and I know we need to let you go because of other engagement. But before we do that...
Yes, I have Matanga. I am going, and I am the preacher.
And you must go. It is in your constituency.
Yes, and I have my Mheshimiwa Nabii, who I want to really apologize in the studio. I have kept him from a while now. May he forgive me, but we are still going.
He will forgive you because you're still going.
We're still going.
But from the background of, civil society, because sometimes when you have the conversation of stakeholders in this process of advancing, women rights, sometimes we tend to forget the civil society groups. Coming from that background, what do you think is the role of civil society groups?
You see, one of the things, the role of civil society from the beginning, first of all, is normally to help to create that awareness on issues that need government's attention. One of the things we need to learn is that also, and civil society must learn, that it evolves. You see, when governments get more good governance and they are strengthening themselves, you must learn how to change with that government so that you remain relevant with the country. And so for us as women, I think the key agenda, I think when we achieve the 2/3, you see now the women civil societies must start thinking, so after we have achieved 2/3, then what next? Then you must start building the capacities of these women who are coming in now so that they are able now to perform. And that should be their next role in building that capacity. I know we have many organizations and even embassies that have really supported us. But one thing I want to plead with the president, we also now need government to just come in and support that women's agenda. And in supporting is by ensuring if we have, let's say, for example, resources in government. For example, you have water, you have roads, then how I pray that they can support more in the women's constituencies. Not because you become biased, but you build, so that you build that capacity. Building that capacity is making sure things are moving in that constituency. And that way, now people will feel, okay, then we need more women. Then women can function because they won't have the resources. Because most of the time we end up having, you must enter, look for money, look for friends. We keep on asking each other, support me here today, I have this, support me this, I have this. Fine, we do it, but if government can just come up with a good kitty for development, and it's not me handling, It is, if it is in this ministry, what is the 30% that you are giving within that constituency for that women? Yes, the same way we are saying support women contractors, support women engineers who can come on the ground and do work. And I think for us, all of us, if you ask us, women are the ones who have come and done some good work that we've just done. You'll find many women are the ones who we have given the opportunity to do it, even if it's not me doing, but I will really request, just know it's a constituency of a woman. I need to see women in my constituency doing some of the work, and they will do it better. So I think as we move, that is one thing I will want to plead with government. Not just women in single constituencies, we really need that support. Women in the 47, they really need that support. I know the president gave them the 1 billion, and we want to see now something that the president will support the women in single constituencies. So it's very critical. I know many people are sort of happy. I get very worried as a country, and I want to tell Kenyans, we have to look at our country. It's very worrying when you look at the African continent at the moment. And in the middle of the African continent, all countries in that middle are in a coup. It should tell us something. It should ring a bell on us. And it should tell us we must strengthen Kenya. And we must build our own Kenya, because it's like, if we are not careful, we are just going to remain with this Kenya. And every person is sort of going back to realism, where you protect. So as much as we see that, and that is why we must have women, and that is why these talks must be very serious, because we must come out of this quagmire, and we must move Kenya now. The young people we are going to bury should not be just going to be buried. They should have a meaning of to see good things to come.
All right.
So for me, as I finalize, I want to thank the president for the performance contract. And indeed, one thing I just want to put in as a hanging fruit, tourism. I know he has a good agenda. I want to ask the president, add in tourism. Where is it? It's a very serious hanging fruit. Kenyans are doing a lot of domestic tourism, but push in now, tell the ministry to do a serious marketing and bring back the Chinese tourists. The last time we had the Chinese, there were 85,000. So we need more. And that is one thing we should push trade with them first as we move on with other things, as we appreciate and call in more tourists to come into Kenya, so that our hospitality sector also can work.
All right. Mheshimiwa, as we wind up very quickly, because both of you are members of KEWOPA, and you've talked about civil society organizations. But for you that are elected, what are you doing to encourage others probably who are either fearful or are limited in one way or another to look for political positions? What are you doing as elected members of parliament, particularly representing single constituencies?
Thank you. Just to echo the voice from Honorable Beatrice, civil societies are key in governance. They contribute a lot in shaping the agendas of awareness, because many are times that people are not informed even what they expect of their government or what even members like us are doing, and so awareness is very important. Also, coming to the last point where she has left about tourism, I am happy that we have enough domestic tourism, but I am afraid that even if we go outside to market the foreign tourists, I wonder if the tourists will come, because you can imagine someone has landed at JKIA and they find the police and the young men fighting, removing the SGR, removing the express highway. You just imagine, make that photograph in your mind for a minute, see that you have come from Germany or whichever country, you've landed in JKIA, and you find the country is in chaos. So as much as the government and even us in Kenya Kwanza and every other person of goodwill in our country want us to have a tourism, and it should be there, we must also think how well should we accommodate, even attract the tourists. Having said that, we are doing a lot as women leaders. For instance, thank you very much for inviting us, because this conversation, I believe by the end of this conversation, 1 or 2 women will say, oh, so I had contested on this political party, yet my zone was this political party. So this kind of conversation are good. Even when you are debating in parliament, sometimes you find a woman member slightly diverting the debate on the floor. Not that we don't know the standing order, that we can be ruled out of relevance, but just because we want to pass the message to our women in our constituencies. So I would say that they follow the debate, they follow this kind of conversation, they attend the workshops that we do in the constituency. Even when we are giving checks like Uwezo, even if their groups have not been called to come and pick the checks, let them join so that they hear the success story from the women that we have touched. And I think it's a journey that we intend to touch all women. And they should brave, focus, and they should not look at the sideshow. The issue of marriage, the issue of where you come from, it is already overtaken by events. If I did not contest in Kinagop, when 12 men were saying that this one should go and contest in Kinagop, and I was asking them, all of them, where they are married. I had done a research, and I knew one was from Zambia, had married a Zambian. So I was already asking, from Zambia to Kinagop, which is near? From Muranga to Kinagop, which is near? Again, they say that you are sleeping in Kipipiri and your legs are in Kinagop. I ask, do you want my legs or you want my head? You know? So women must really come of age with this conversation and argument and show men that they are at par and they are not afraid, and they must really focus and go for it. Thank you.
In Kipipiri,
yes, you want my head. You don't want my legs?
By the way, in a serious parting shot, you know, I went to a meeting today. It was just a friendly meeting. And I sat down, I won't say the names, with a few ambassadors, my friend. You know what they told me? They were so amazed that the meeting, they were told the meeting at State House was starting at 9. And you know them, they arrive in time. But they were amazed because they told me a story. They said, you know, when it was during Uhuru's time, we used to come in knowing we will talk, finish Africa for 3 hours before we start our meeting. And therefore they used to know that you cannot put any other meeting when you're meeting President Uhuru. But they have never seen it, and that is only one thing that they will thank the president. I said, let me do it a parting shot. It's not a good parting shot, but let me tell you, I looked at them, and no, you see, these are UN ambassadors telling me. It's good to say it, that it was not something good they ever liked. Yeah, it's good to say it. I'm just saying it.
And as you had, let me ask people in Kipipiri, if they find blackout, they must run to their transformer and see
whether it is being vanquished, vandalized.
It is very serious.
Thank you very much, ladies.
I said this because they asked me to say it, so I have to say it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Timekeeping.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and God bless you for the wonderful job you're doing. We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, and even for your prayers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're taking a breather. We're coming back.
What?